Hi, welcome to the Vectr Firmware 2.0 video. I made a whole bunch of changes to Vectr's firmware and I'm making this video just to demonstrate them for you. Basically what I did was a bunch of work on Vectr's clock abilities. So Vectr's ability to synchronize with external clock, Vectr's ability to generate clock, synchronize other gear to it, maintain that synchronization, and give you the ability to record loops of any length, different number of clock cycle lengths, either internal or external, and just make Vectr work a whole bunch better with synchronization. So you can see right now that Vectr's LED is blinking and that is synchronized, and right now I'm using this pocket operator to synchronize Vectr. So Vectr is receiving clock from the pocket operator, and you can see that the LED will start and stop blinking when I start and stop playing on the pocket operator. So Vectr is receiving clock. The LED now shows you the clock when it's in live play mode like this, like it is right now. It's showing red on the one beat and green on the other beats. So the other thing you'll notice is that I did a bunch of work on Vectr's just the playability of it. So right now I have the Z axis going to a VCA, I have the Y going to a filter, I have the X going to the pitch, and I have that clock coming in. So the clock is also triggering a VCA. So I did that so I could show you Vectr's, the clock is passing through Vectr and going to a VCA, which is being triggered on every clock edge. And then the Z is also going to a VCA, a second VCA after that first one. So you could see that the clocking is happening. So I added a bunch of new features for this external clocking. So you can set now easily to record loops of any length, and there's two different ways that you can do that. So if I go into the menu now and I go to the record menu and I go to the control menu, I have this trig option, but I now have a trig A option, and the trig A option will make it so that I can record a fixed loop of any specific length that I choose. So I'll show you how that works. And this all works in conjunction with what is now being used, this clock number setting. So right now I got it set to 4 clocks. I could set it to 8, or I could set it to 16 clocks, or 2 or 1. So if I set it to 4 right now, as I had it set, when I push the button, it's going to start recording, and it's automatically going to record a sequence that is 4 beats long, and then it's going to start playing that back immediately. So if I push the button, it starts recording, and then it's going to stop recording on its own after the 4th beat, and automatically play that back. Now I'll go back into live play so I could show you the other mode, which is the regular trig mode. So if I go back into record, control, and change it over to the trig mode, which is the regular trigger, now I can record sequences of 4, 8, 12, 16, 20, 24, any multiple of 4. So when I push the button, it starts recording, it's counting clocks, and then when I push it again, it's going to stop on any multiple of 4, so I could make any loop of any length that I wanted to. So if I wanted to just start it, now it's recording, and if I hit stop, it's going to stop on the next 4th beat. So now I have a sequence which is a multiple of 4. So I think I did about 16 steps there. So now when Vectr has this clock, it's also keeping track of the tempo, and it's counting between clocks how long it is. So Vectr is not a regular step sequencer. It actually has hundreds of steps per second ordinarily. But I made it playback and be fluid and adjustable in its playback. So if I change the tempo on the pocket operator, then Vectr will track those changes and will increase its playback speed. I slow it down, it'll slow back down again. And if I stop on the pocket operator and start, I can start and stop playback now. And if when I have it stopped, I push the encoder button, it will start back at 0 the next time I restart. So it's a way to resynchronize your sequences. So I also added the ability to time quantize so that Vectr's outputs could be configured to only change on clock edges. So to do that, I make this quick little gesture of 2 taps. First I'll tap the bottom, and then I'll tap one of the sides for whichever axis I want to quantize. So that'll be left for X, the top for Y, and the right for Z. So if I wanted to time quantize the X axis, which is doing the pitch right now, I tap once and then I tap again on the side. And it blinked to let me know that I got the action right. The first time I kind of missed. So that you really want to tap along the very bottom outside the dotted area and on the edge outside the dotted area over there. So now this LED over here stayed on to indicate that the X axis is time quantized. So now it's only changing the X on the clock edges. And you can hear it a little better if I let out the VCA a little bit. And it'll keep doing that when I do go back to live play also. So then to turn that back off again, I make the same gesture. And then, so this axis is also pitch quantized. So pitch quantization and time quantization at the same time ends up acting a whole bunch like a step sequencer. So when I have the playback running, and I can go back in and start over again, right, by pushing, I can start that sequence again. So the circular gestures still work, and the circular gestures allow you to speed up or slow down the sequence. So if I make a circle gesture when I have this external synchronization going, it's going to do binary speed changes. So it doubles in speed for a clockwise loop, and it halves in speed for a counterclockwise loop, so that you can make it behave kind of like clock multiplication and clock division. And the clock comes back out of Vectr, so I have the regular speed clock coming in the record, and I have now a double time clock coming out of clock, and it'll do that all the way up to 16 times faster, or 16 times slower. So that's pretty fun to play with. Now, all the features that I mentioned before for external synchronization are also available with internal synchronization using Vectr's internal clock. But in order to generate an internal clock and have it running all the time, I added a tap tempo mode. So to get into tap tempo mode, you make a move that's similar to entering the time, turning on the time quantization, except in this one you tap first on the right and then on the left, and that turns on the tap tempo mode. So it's a quick move, tap right, tap left. The switch turns red to let me know that I got it right. And now Vectr is waiting for me to tap in a tempo. So its clock starts coming out right away when the first press, and then it takes 4 presses. Vectr locks in the tempo and starts running. So 1, 2, 3, 4. Now Vectr's picked it up, figured out the tempo from my presses, and is running. So now Vectr is triggering the VCA and audio is coming out again. And all the features are still there. The trigger, the automatic triggering, the automatic loop calculation, the automatic loop length, time quantization is still there. The circular gestures are still there. So you can do all the same stuff, except now the tempo changes when you do circular gestures are smooth changes and not the binary doubling and quadrupling. So if I hit record now, it's in the regular trigger mode still. So if I hit it again, I'll get a loop quantized to a multiple of 4, and it's running, and it will keep running. And if I make those tempo changes now, it does more of a steady speed increases and steady speed decreases. So that's most of the new stuff. I hope you enjoy messing around with that. I certainly had a lot of fun making this software, and I hope you enjoy mucking around with it. All right, cheers.